Well, good afternoon, everybody. What is going on? Another wonderful Wednesday. Great day to be alive. Great day to not have this light the way it is. Why am I? Gotta figure this light thing out. Um, and I gotta quit moving that table around. What is going on? Hey, by the way, if this is your first time here, and you're new and you're kind of just checking into the channel and watching it live here. My name is Paul Turner from the discipleproject.net, and I spend my time hanging out with youth workers and doing some training and things like that. And I do this Wednesday at 1 to answer your youth ministry questions. So if you have youth ministry questions, there's two ways you can do this. One, you can leave them live right now and just ask them as we're kind of moving along, and I'll be happy to do my best to answer them best way I can. Maybe the better way to get them answered. I mean, I can answer on the fly. That's not a big deal. But if you want me to put a lot more deeper thought, if you will, into it, you can always subscribe to the channel here and go over to the community section, and when I post that I'm getting ready to do my live, you can go ahead and put your questions in there. As well, you can always just leave a comment down below after the video is done, and you can do that as well. So, but that is how you can get your questions answered if you have questions. And I hope you have questions, because without your questions, it's just a lot of me chatting, and they're not going to be very long, which is fine. That's okay. But I'd rather have questions. I'd rather have people that are interested in getting their questions answered. If you're struggling with a situation, it could be anything. It could be about your programming. It could be about your calendar. It could be about your, preaching. It could be about ministry style. It could be about any number of things. Management, leadership, all that kind of good stuff. I kind of cover all those things that way. And so you are welcome to leave your questions, okay? Also, if you are just hanging around, I would love, I see many of you have already jumped in. Go ahead and tell me, just say hey, let me know you're here. And if you have questions, or if you want to just make comments, all that kind of good stuff, please go ahead and do so. Let me know where you're from, what area. I had somebody from Canada, from Alberta, comment the other day. So I love getting international folks as well. I say international, it's North America still. International, it's north, right? North of Alabama. So in Alabama, Canada would be considered international. So let's see. So please tell me where you're from. Tell me your name and say, hey, I'm so-and-so from such and such, or what church you're from. It doesn't matter. And I'll give a little poll right now. According to Twitter and other sources, Superman, Henry Cavill, is out as Superman of the DC universe at this point. So maybe that's true, maybe that's not. Maybe there's a lot of deal making going on. We don't know. But as of this point right now, Henry Cavill is out. The question is, who would you like to see play Superman in the new any new movies? Because right now I think we're losing Batman, we're losing Superman. The Justice League is just falling apart, guys. It's just falling apart. So thank God for the Marvel Universe. That's all you can say, right? Well, I grew up a Marvel fan, so that'd be another good poll. Let me know if you're a Marvel or DC guy or girl. I'd like to know that. That'd be fun to find out. Let's see. What else is new? Oh, just got done with, I'm kind of over Halloween a little bit. It's still one of my favorite days of the year because it's in fall and all that kind of stuff. As far as the, overall deal with it, where, there's kids getting ready to be made up into costumes and all that kind of stuff. I have 3 kids of my own. They are all grown now, so I do not expect that they'll be dressing up this year. But I remember that being a fun time when my kids would go ahead and dress up and go trick-or-treating and all that kind of good stuff. But I'm a little over Halloween at this point because I'm not a full-time youth pastor anymore, so I don't have to think up crazy stuff. Hey, John, near Clemson. Ah, yes, sir. Well, you please be safe over there. I hear that you have hurricanes coming your way, so please go ahead and be safe over there. Because it's a dangerous place to live right now over there in the Carolinas and along the shore. So, but anyway, I was talking about this new series that I have here where I'm kind of cheating on Halloween with All Saints Day. Now, All Saints Day, if you're not familiar, is kind of the hey Cynthia, good to see you. Um, um, the series has to do with All Saints Day, which is whether that's the some say that was first, some say they co-opted the holiday. The church co-opted the holiday and the pagan festivals and all kind of stuff. Some say it's the other way around. It doesn't matter to me, one way or the other. But for me, not being a full-time youth pastor, I don't have to think up. Okay, St. Louis, very good, Cynthia. Glad to have you today. The series focuses on, I'm calling it bringing back the dead, which, I'm still a youth pastor at heart in my blood. So the names and all that kind of stuff still comes to me when doing this. But, these 4 weeks that I've developed, and if you're interested in them, let me go ahead and I'll show you. You can see it in the clip here. There we go. Let me kind of take you over this way real quick. Now, right there, you can see over here, if you go to gumroad.com, right up here, gumroad.com. Hey, Jeremy. Shout out to Memphis there. But the new series is called Bringing Back the Dead. And what I've done with this is I've went ahead and created 4 lessons based around the martyrs, right? Based around those who had given their life for Christ. And that site, by the way, is gumroad.com/youthmen resources. That'll be a link down below. I'll put that in there later. But basically, in the first week, I talk about basically dethroning Halloween, because I think the church has made it the big bad, right, for so long. It's the worst holiday ever, right? It's like it's the worst thing ever, and all that. And I'm just, I'm gonna, in that first lesson, I dethroned it because I don't believe Satan. I don't believe that Satan has any greater power on the 31st than he does any other time of the year. And I think a lot of churches spend a lot of energy and time, stirring up things when you could be focusing on not giving the devil more power, but rather revealing him for what he is, which is a punk, and he's defeated, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to give the devil any more credit than what the Bible would give him. He is a schemer, a liar, and a traitor, and he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. So in that first lesson, I kind of dethrone Halloween there. I kind of dethrone it. The second week, I talk about biblical martyrs and their commitment to the Lord. In the third week, I talk about historical martyrs, both in the ancient sense, but also in the modern sense. And then I finally cap it off with God's deal with the dead. So, but those are the lessons I've put out there. If you're, by the way, if you're not a subscriber yet, let me encourage you to subscribe here, because in the community section, if you've not checked this out, there's a free lesson there. I've put the first lesson in there, and the first lesson is, I believe it's called The Darkness, the Devil, and the Dead. And of course, that makes for great Instagram, and by the way, all the lessons come with Instagram and Facebook art, that kind of stuff, and slides and all that jazz. So I've spent a little time doing that to maybe give you a little different feel as youth workers, right? To give you a little different feel for the holidays, because I know it's an opportunity to talk about fear and things like that. What do you have? I'd like to know, those of you that are watching right now, what do you have planned for the month of October? What are you talking about? Do you lean into the season of Halloween, where I know as a youth worker we want to talk about fear or masks or things like that? What are your topics looking like for October? I would be interested to hear, and whether or not that's a thing for you to lean into those topics because you're taking advantage of the season, or are you way off course? You're like, Paul, we don't even talk about it. We got other things going on. That's not even a part of the lesson plan for October. So, but if you do, let me know. I'd be interested on what your subjects are. Jeremy, by the way, though you in Memphis there, welcome. I want to say again, and how you've been there? Let me know. Have you been there a little while, or just brand spanking new, fell off the truck kind of thing? You're just like, hey, here I am. But be happy to answer any questions you may have, because I love youth workers that are just getting started out. About 250 members soon. Okay. Let me look over here real quick. There we go. A few students, mostly juniors, seniors. What do you think are the best, the most important steps to take right off the bat? Well, those are 3 years. Okay, fantastic, Jeremy. So, once you figure out kind of the kids you have, I noticed you have juniors and seniors. So you're coming in there, and I don't know what the youth ministry looked like beforehand, but usually a lot of juniors and seniors, were brought up, from that guy or girl who had them maybe when they were in middle school, or maybe they've gone through 2 or 3 youth workers. I don't know. But it's always awkward for me, I should say, that when I went into a church and my juniors and seniors were there and they were kind and they were everything, but I always felt like that the buy-in for them was harder because they're moving out, right? Those juniors and seniors are kind of checking out on me, so I'm wondering how much commitment I can get, and you just have to be able to work fast to be able to capture their attention, right? To get them involved and to get them those things, because I didn't have all those years with those guys, with the juniors and seniors. I would have and for me, my advice would be, don't try so hard because you don't have the level of investment, but don't act like you don't care either, right? Like, hey, you guys are gone. I don't have to deal with you anymore, and you're going to be out. I would say you definitely, open your heart to them. Show them that you care. Say, look, I know you're only here for another year or 2 years, and what would you like to accomplish? Ask them. Say, you got 2 years. At the end of those 2 years, what would you like your youth ministry experience to be like? Where have you not been before? What experiences have you not had? What skills do you think you need to learn that you don't feel like maybe you got over the past couple of years? And I think it becomes a great opportunity to just listen, right? Just listen to those guys and say, what can I help you do to cross the finish line, of this part of your journey? How can I help you train, get ready for those last 2 laps of your junior or senior year? And how would you like to be involved? What mark? Here's another question. What mark would you like to leave on this youth ministry? Because once I tap into that, then I can find out things like, if what they're doing, what their gifts or talents or skills are, and then I can say, okay, great. If you would like to be a leader in this area, and maybe you've never had the opportunity, I want to give you that opportunity. I would include them in some of the planning, and say, hey guys, we're thinking about some ideas. I would love you guys' input. And of course, that's all based on what kind of juniors and seniors you have, right? This is all based on, whether they want to be involved, whether they're engaged, whether they're apathetic, any of those things. And so, all those conditions matter in that regard. But I would just spend a lot of time listening and say, what can I do to help you cross the finish line? What can I help you do? Because I want your last 2 years here. Hey, Cynthia, I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and I travel and spend most of the time traveling and speaking now when I can. But I am here in Birmingham. And so, Jeremy, I hope that answers your question as to maybe where to take those juniors and seniors. Spend a lot of time listening and say, how can I help you? Where can I take you? What skills do you need to know? Where do you feel like, that leaves you? So, good, excellent, Jeremy. I'm so good, excellent. Glad I could help there. If you have other questions, more than why, in fact, Jeremy, you bring up a great question there too, because I saw in a post somewhere, someone was asking about student leadership and taking student leadership to the next level, I think. And I think they referred, and I don't think it was meant to be negative, I think it was just a term that they used. But in some ways we talk about student leadership as somehow that that the roles we give students are church fillers. I want to say, where we say, hey, well, look, we don't have anything else to do, so why don't you go up and do the offering, or you don't have there's nothing else to do. Why don't you go ahead and do participate and take the offering in church, or read scripture, things like that. And I would say that that's a great place to start. I wouldn't say that's the end all be all of everything, but these small places where kids can fit within the church to start. And I think I answered the question by saying, what's the next level after that? And the next level after that is simply finding out what burns in a kid's hearts. What are they most passionate about? Are they passionate about the poor? Are they angry at social injustices? Are they, what makes them sad? What makes them angry? And the only thing you can do at that point is help them discover or create opportunities. And if their passions and goals line up with, well, how do we connect that with the gospel, right? How do we connect that with those things? Then how can we as a youth ministry do that? Jeremy, that's a great question. How do you get them from apathetic to passionate, right? Every youth ministry's challenge. And I'm trying to remember this, but my friend Tim, who was a youth pastor a while back, he had a leveling system, right? That there are steps in between apathy and passion. So I would what I would do is create a scale, for your students that says, okay, so if they're apathy, what does that next level look like? What is one step? Not like, how do I get you to be passionate immediately, but what's one step above apathy, right? And then what's the next step after that? And I would create a scale. In fact, that's probably a good idea. Maybe I'm going to look into this, but maybe my friend Tim still has that somewhere. But figure out your scale between apathy and passionate, and then say, well, what can I do then to help that student take the next step, right? If they're absolutely nothing, right? If they say, well, I don't really care, and I sit there in youth and cross my arms, and well, then the next thing for me would be is, how can I figure out for them to engage, right? What's a way for them to do something small that would add value to the rest of the meeting, or just figure out their engagement. Maybe that's like level 2. Level 1 is just engagement, I would think. How can I better engage with the student so I can find out where their heart is, right? And the next level beyond that maybe is figuring out where do they fit, where are their gifts and talents, and how can I figure out where they can connect in that, right? And as part of the first level, by the way, you want to find out their passion and interest level in the Lord, right? You want them to be in the youth meeting, but you want them to know the Lord. I mean, when we talk about apathy and passion, obviously that should always be framed in reference to the relationship with Jesus. But I also look at that, it's also manifested in how they participate in life, right? So, maybe there's 2 scales, right? Maybe there's a scale for their passion level with the Lord, and then maybe there's a scale for to get them to participating at higher levels. But I think those are overlapping, right? I think if they're going to become passionate for the Lord in those little increments, right, I think that's also going to manifest itself, and so maybe there's a spiritual dynamic, but also a physical dynamic for them to have the outlet, right, to do that, right? So what then, and I'm just making notes here as I'm kind of going along, but on your scale, if you will, what is the next step after apathy? And then what is the step right, I would create no more than like 3 or 4 in between that says if they're willing to talk about their faith, if they're willing to answer questions. These are all small incremental things that I think you build over time with kids. But I think you do have to, what does a passionate lover of Jesus look like, right? I think you have to define that before you get them there, right? And then along the way, you're kind of creating those elements both relationally and from a program standpoint of view that that allows them, that you invite them into to participate in, right? So for me, a kid who would serve, let's say, if I wanted to get a kid passionate about missions for a international trip, let's say, I would try to do local things, or I would make them, if we didn't have anything locally going on, I would at least try to use videos or things like that to kind of let them know and make them aware of the needs that are going on. But if you want to take a kid from apathetic about something to passionate about something, that has to do with getting them involved at different levels before they got to experience it to be passionate about it, right? They have to, to be passionate about the Lord, you have to experience the Lord, right? And so it can't be faked, it can't be phony, it can't be drummed up. It can only be, measured in small increments. So don't try to, go from 0 to 100. Build it slow. What are these steps these kids have to take to kind of move them along to get them to a place of passion? So I hope that's helpful, Jeremy. There was a question from Avery. Avery, it's good to see you, buddy. Avery had a question that says, when you start a new church, what is the best steps to take in the first 6 months to 12 months? Also a great question. It takes you about 6 months, at least, to a year, to figure out the DNA of that church. Now, if you're already familiar with it, let's say you're in the church and you go to being the youth pastor after being in the church, you kind of already have an idea of what the DNA of the church is. So you have an idea of the culture and things like that. And I think it is really about, the first few months are really about observation. You're kind of observing rhythms in the church. You're observing leadership styles. You're observing how the church functions, how it plans, how it does calendar, how it does its events. Because in some ways, you're going to take that youth ministry and it's going to some degree, mimic what the larger body's doing, maybe. Because if you go too far off the rails this way, it could be counterproductive in regards to moving ministry forward. But in the churches that I've been in, I start looking at, who are we going to be, right? That's the question. Who does God want us to be? And I don't always know the answer. I can tell you 100% of the time, I don't know the answer in the first 6 months to a year. I'm asking and saying, Lord, where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Who are we going to be? Because if you look at it like a novel, if you look at it like a movie, your ministry has, 3 acts to it, right? You have the opening chapters, you have the middle part, right? You have second act of what's going on, right? What are things developing, characters that are being developed, and then you have the third act, which is the closure part of it, right? Where you got to stick the landing, right? The ending. What does the end of your ministry time maybe look like? But for me, those 6 months to a year, I would make sure, and I think it goes back to what your goals are, right? Once you know the DNA of your kids, once you know their heart, and once again, it goes back to listening to your kids, getting to know them. I would be slow to maybe crank something up or create a program that kids aren't interested in. I'm not there to sell them anything, right? I'm not there to go, hey guys, I'm the new guy and I want to impress you. So if I would tell you not to do anything, I would spend your first 6 months to a year trying not to impress them. I think you spend that first year listening and developing. Where is everybody at on that level? Like I was talking about with Jeremy, where's everybody's level? What has been their story prior to you, right? You're trying to figure out, where is this kid with the Lord? Where is this kid with the church? What journey are they on? And how do I come along and help them develop their life with Christ? How do I do that? And that's that part, and then you have whatever your senior pastor, your supervisor, your leader, whoever that person is, telling you, yeah, but we want the youth to do X. So there's a fine balance in there of saying, okay, um, who are the kids that I'm serving, and I'm trying to listen to their heart of who God's trying to make them to be, and develop them to be, and create them to be, and then I'm listening to the top part that says, well, we have certain expectations of you, which is important as well as far as your own job's concerned. So that's a long way to answer, Avery. To say, listen, I would spend the first 6 months to a year as part of your programming, not just like don't program anything, but really leaning in and getting to know these kids and where they at in the sense of where they're at in relationship to Jesus. You can still do fun things, right? You're in a season which is the kind of the back to school, what I would consider the fun season, right? Because you have all these holidays. You have a great opportunity to build community around these things, right? Whether it's with Halloween coming up, right? And we did for several years. This last church we had several themed parties, right? We had like a Disney one time. We had a superhero one time, and a lot of great community building opportunities. And in the context of those community builders, you're kind of finding out who these kids are, who they want to be, and where they at in relationship to Jesus. And so, you have Thanksgiving, which could be great opportunities for service projects or for, you get to find the level of service with your kids. What are they willing to do? What do they understand about their role in serving God? Do they understand these things, right? Or is it something they're going to jump on board? What's their history, right, in this? And then you have Christmas, right? You have Christmas party. You have, all those kinds of things. So this particular season, these first 4 months, September through December, becomes a great opportunity for community. It becomes a great opportunity to listen to kids and saying, okay, what does this kid need? And then that comes out of conversations, right? When you're listening to kids and saying they don't know something, or they don't know why something is the way it is, or they don't know how to get from point A to point B in this thing with God. Well, then those become fantastic. Forget the seasons in regard. You want to pay attention to Christmas, or you want to talk about Thanksgiving, but the seasons are there to serve us. We're not there to serve the seasons. Okay. If you do 1 week out of November and talk about being thankful, that's great. You can use the other 2 to 3 weeks talking about what do thankful people do, right? Thankful people serve the Lord. Thankful people worship. Thankful people, right? And use that in regards to teachability and teaching kids how to outflow of their deepest convictions. So have a conviction about being thankful. Or if it's Christmas, right? You're talking about great opportunity to talk about gifts and talents and abilities. A great opportunity to find out what kids can do. Why not have a Christmas talent show, right? Bring your gifts, right? But the gifts can't be wrapped. The gifts can't be something like that. These gifts have to be something you can do, right? It can be a talent. It can be singing. It can be painting. It can be photography. It can be graphic design. It can be spoken word. It can be rap. Any of these things. Have a talent night where kids can honor the Lord, bring their gifts, so to speak, as the wise men did. Bring your gift to the Lord tonight. Let's do a talent show. Let's find out what everybody's gifted at. It's a great way to find out what they're good at, and then how that gift, those kids that are gifted, how can I implement that and use and help them get involved, to where their gift and their talent and their ability is being used on a regular basis. The more they use it like a muscle, it gets stronger. So if that kid can sing, why am I only having them sing once a year? Why can't I have them do the offertory? Why are they singing in church? Why aren't they playing that guitar more often? Why am I not using him in this? So, those are at least the first 4 months, and then the other 4 months, you have January through 5 months through May, and you're getting through your first year. You're figuring out really, in reality, you're figuring out how to gear up for summer, right? Everyone is, you're using this time to gear up for January, February, March. You're using January, February, March to gear up for April, May, June, or summer, right? So you're looking at these things as far as building a foundation for what's next, right? Relationally. So Avery, I hope that right, exactly. Exactly, Avery, has come alongside of them. I'm not here to impress. I'm here to come alongside of you and find out what is God doing in your midst versus me trying to create other things. Here's what God's doing now. I want you to be involved in that. You're saying, hey, what is God doing here already, and how do I tap into those gifts, talents, and abilities? How do I build relationship? How do I disciple students, right? What does a disciple look like? And how am I using all these elements to help you grow to be the most dynamic follower of Jesus you can be, as far as your depth of relationship with the Lord and that kind of stuff. So I hope that is helpful to you. It looks like I've been on here for about 25 minutes, so I'm going to go 5 more minutes. And so if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Would love to do that. Let's see. C-Flow. Hey, brother, love your videos. Got a question. I have a 22-year-old young lady that started bringing her little sister to our youth group about 6 months now. Oh, C-Flow, I'm so sorry. What is the 22-year-old young lady that started bringing her little sister to our youth group for about 6 months now? So I'm going to need a little more clarification there, C-Flow. Is the 22-year-old lady a part of your youth ministry, and she is now bringing her younger sister who is not of age, maybe? Is she too young for the group? If you can give me a little more context with that, that would be great. But that's a great question, is what happens when a sibling... Now, I can tell you what we've done in the past. We've had a great children's ministry building block in most of the churches that I've been in. So when somebody younger comes in, and they're a friend of somebody or they're a sibling of somebody, I always move them to that younger. That's okay, C-Flow. You just get me the answer when you can. But when I have somebody that's younger and somebody brings somebody that's younger, then I wind up referring them and try to get them to go. Now, one night, if a kid, let's say, is in 5th grade, I'm going to encourage that kid to go give it a try and say, look, I would love for you to try this kids program. I think it's pretty good. I think you'll enjoy it. You have another year before you're with me, right? So will you go try it out for me tonight? Okay. If you hate it, I understand that completely. I don't think you're going to hate it. I think you're going to love it. But if somebody is too young for the group, let's see. Okay. All right. C-Flow says, I have a 22-year-old young lady that started bringing her little sister to a youth group 6 months. They started attending in the church that doesn't have a youth group. Okay. She told me that she tried to start something at her church, but was repeatedly shot down. She loves the Lord and seems like a quality person. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, if she's... is the difficulty or the challenge that she goes to another church, but she's bringing her sister over to your youth group? Is that a challenge, or is there some sort of, tension in that? Or is the, oh, not quite sure. Okay, gotcha. Okay. Right. Gotcha. You know what? And that is a struggle there. I struggle with it because I want our adult leaders to be a part of the DNA of our church, right? I want them to have, I don't know if my leader goes to another church, I don't know what their values are in regards to there may be some doctrinal differences. That might be a problem. But overall, I don't know what their pastor teaches. I'm not talking about, like I said, she's a quality person, and we don't question that. and I wouldn't question the quality of the person necessarily. I would just say, you know what? I would rather those leaders be a part of the DNA of our church because they understand where we're going and where we're heading. They don't see that on Sunday mornings. They don't know that. And I also want young people to see my adult leaders in church. Now, granted, she is going to another church. It's not whether she's involved in church or not. God bless her. You know, she's involved in church. But I would have a struggle with, the adult leader not being present in our services because our kids don't get to watch their lives, right, on a Sunday morning. Right now, it's not their whole lives, but they don't get to see them participate in the body of worship. Now, some churches or some youth groups may not have any policies, which you might want to ask your pastor. That may be a good opportunity to get, you know, somebody involved from that capacity and ask those questions because, you know, you don't know what you're getting, right? They're a quality person, but you don't know what you're getting into sometimes, right? And so I hope that helps there, Seaflow, because I would let her know. And you know what? Maybe if you described it to her that way, maybe she might be willing to switch churches, right? And that's not the goal. But if she's participating in bringing her sister to the youth group because they don't have one there, then she might want to consider being a part of a church that does have a youth ministry and say, hey, would you consider coming to church here on Sunday mornings, stick with us, understand who we are, be a part of the DNA and the culture of the church, at least try it for a month or 2 months or whatever it may be, and say, listen, why don't you come and be with us on a Sunday morning? I would love to continue to use you as a leader, but I can only use you as far as you're participating on a Sunday morning because there's things I want our students to see. I want them to see active members or you know, of our church participating in worship, and that's an important value for any of the leaders that I would have, and that becomes part of, you know, your DNA and part of your value system that says, here's why I can't let every leader come be a part of this youth ministry. Because if they're not consistent on a Sunday, you know, there's all kinds of issues there. There's all kinds of issues why adult leaders are not consistent on Sunday, and yet they continue to show up on Wednesdays. That's a whole nother. I'll leave that for another. I'll leave that for another deal. So I hope that helps you, sir. But anyway, guys, I'm going to go and wrap up because that is our time. I have gone the full 30 minutes. You guys just rocked it today with the questions. That is phenomenal. Well done, everybody. Love the questions today. So be sure, by the way, if you're watching this afterwards, after this is over, be sure to leave your questions for next Wednesday down there. Or if you've not subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. You're going to see a little thing over here at the end of the video where you can you know, hit the subscribe button, but also go ahead and, you know, leave a comment in our community section, but also you can leave a comment down below. So thank you guys so much for being a part of the Wednesday at 1 today. I hope that you guys have phenomenal, if you've meeting tonight, go ahead and check that out. That's great. That's great, Steve. Well, you know what? I'm still learning about youth ministry. I may be making videos, but don't let me fool you. I'm still learning about youth ministry too. I thought I knew something about youth ministry, and then I'm learning something. It's kind of like the Lord, right? We think we know the Lord, and then we start figuring out we don't know him as well as we ought to, and there's some things we don't know. So, but anyway, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Be sure to share this video with somebody maybe that maybe needs to hear it. So I appreciate you guys being here. Once again, there'll be a little thing that's going to show up here in just a little bit. You can click and subscribe, join the community, post in the community section about questions, or leave your comments down below. So that's it for today, guys. Be sure to go by gumroad.com/youthmenresources to pick up my new series, Bringing Back the Dead. And hope you guys have a great day today. Have a good meeting tonight. Talk to you guys later.